Hi, I'm Misa, and this is Books on the House for Kids and Teens. We're talking today with Ridley Pearson, author of the Starcatchers series, books, crime fiction for adults, several series for kids and teens, and today we're talking about Kingdom Keepers. Welcome, Ridley.
Thank you, Misa.
I would love to hear, first of all, how you got your start in writing and how you diversified and write for adults, but then also for kids.
I really got my start in writing at a very young age. At about 10, my sister and brother had learned how to type, and I borrowed my sister's book, those are air quotes because I actually stole it, and taught myself how to type, and then I had nothing to type. So I spent an awful lot of time making up stories just as a means to manually type. This was back in the Stone Age, and we had nothing but typewriters. And I bet between the time I was 10 and 15, I probably wrote 100 or more stories, and none of which were any good, I'm sure. And then, high school, college, you're all busy, and you don't do any of that. When I got out of college, I tried to be James Taylor. That was really successful. And
you're a guitar player?
I'm a guitar player, bass player, piano player, and stuff, but I was obviously not James Taylor. And although I enjoy listening to James Taylor, and I ended up writing during the days and playing music at night to keep myself alive, and I did that for about 8.5 years. I wrote 11 scripts, I think 3 books, many, many drafts of each of those books and each of those screenplays, and didn't sell anything. And then the third one sold, and I got about enough to buy a toaster for it. And but I was encouraged to write a second, and I did, and I wrote a third, and I did, and I wrote a fourth, and all of these were for, toasters and microwaves. And then finally my fourth, for whatever reason, was a big bestseller in paperback, and that changed everything, and now I'm, 38, 39 books into it.
Wow, and so those first books were for adults, or they were for kids?
They were for adults. I really didn't get into, I've been writing about 27 years, and I didn't get into the kid thing until about 6-7 years ago, when there were sort of a confluence of events. I'm in this crazy rock band with a bunch of authors, including, Amy Tan and Scott Turow and Greg Iles and Mitch Albom and Dave Barry. And Dave Barry and I became friends when this band started 17, now 18 years ago. And I went to Disney World, actually, with Dave Barry, and we had this just unbelievable time because I was published by Disney, and they treated us like John Travolta.
Oh.
And I came out of there really impressed with the fact that Disney's attractions are stories. They aren't just flash. That you can, as a writer, you can see a beginning, middle, and end on every ride, every attraction. That those beginnings and middle and end clearly have had a lot of thought put into them. And I expressed thanks to Disney and was mentioning this, sort of writer connection with the attractions. And we came up with the idea that I might try to write a thriller series set for kids inside their theme parks with all sorts of restrictions on it because it had to pass muster of Disney attorneys.
Right.
And Disney attorneys are just this side of the Hun, I'm told. So that was a challenge, and while I went through that process, I was reading to my then 5-year-old daughter, and she put her hand across the book and asked me how Peter had met Captain Hook in the first place. We were reading Peter Pan. And I went, wow, there's a whole story there, because why can he fly? Why does he never grow old? Who's the little personal assistant? It came alive for me. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, sweetheart, you stay here and look at the pictures because I'm going to go start making notes. There. And I ran off and began making notes, and as luck would have it, about a week later I was playing another one of these silly performances of the world's worst band you've ever heard. And I was staying with Dave Barry, and I mentioned I was considering trying to, put my pen to a prequel to Peter Pan. And his eyes kind of went wide, and I said, hey, dude, you spend all your time writing booger jokes, and I spend all my time for adults killing people. maybe there's some sort of marriage made in heaven here where we could have a suspenseful, funny book that would explain how a boy became Peter Pan. And we agreed to collaborate. And we outlined the book, and we began emailing chapters back and forth based on character, and had a heck of a great time doing it, and produced Peter and the Starcatchers. And then finally, the Disney attorneys approved my original idea, which was these 5 holograms inside Disney World after dark, battling the Disney villains. And Kingdom Keepers got published.
So suddenly you had 2.
It was a very long answer.
So when you started collaborating with Dave Barry, did you specifically say, I'm going to write this character and you write this character and then we'll switch and keep the voice consistent? Or how did that come about? Because I think that would be very challenging.
It is really challenging. Neither of us had ever collaborated in this way, 2 people working on a single piece. And I went out actually to the library and got some collaborative efforts. And I was very disappointed because I could always tell when the voice switched.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually expressed to Dave that I'd kind of lost interest because I just didn't want to write something that disappointed. Neither did he. He's very careful about that. And we talked about, what could we do? And then we came up with the idea that we could divide the book by character. And one of us would take the light-hearted, happy-go-lucky, humorous characters, and one of us would take the psychopathic, piratical characters, and that might help us at least initiate the proper voice, and that we wouldn't really cross lines. So I wouldn't write a Peter and in this case, Molly chapter, and he wouldn't write a pirate chapter. It didn't mean we wouldn't edit them to death, and in fact we did. We established a system where, according to whose character it was, that person would write a first draft, then email that to the other guy, and he would maul it and completely rewrite it. And we still do it this way. And
you're still friends.
Yeah, exactly. There's only, I think he's probably the only guy in the world I could do this with.
Mm-hmm.
People since have asked, would you write this with me? Would you write that with me? And the thing is we talked about it up front. We're very close friends. And we talked about the fact that, you just can't let ego get into this or you're cooked. Mm-hmm. So there are very few other people I would trust the way I trust Dave, that if he's chopping 5 pages of my hallowed work out of my chapter, that there's a darn good reason he's doing it and that he feels he can improve it. And thankfully, the way the process works, he sends it back, and if I think it doesn't work, then I take his stuff out and try writing it again. Honestly, I never do that. It's always better. And I hope he feels the same. But really what we do is we improve upon the other guy's work, and we're just lucky enough to be friends and to trust each other enough. And really, for the thousands of words we've written together now, maybe 600,000-700,000 words published, I've never had one time where I thought, Dave's just doing this to be Dave. He just doesn't do that. He does it because he can't see clear of what I'm doing. And so he starts it again or edits it to make it clearer. And when I read it, I go, wow, that's a lot better. Maybe we could do this to it and it would be even better. And then he takes that and says, ooh, cool, maybe we could. But we never communicate on an editorial level. Mm-hmm. We just rewrite and send it. And how many people do you know you could do that with?
Yeah, not very many at all.
Don't need a reason of, I felt there was too much, We don't do any of that. We just change it.